Hi, so I can't stop using this YouTube. This is actually my first time. Because I got my account on Google, I got my account on YouTube. So I'm gonna talk about this movie called Christmas. It's one of the bizarre movies I ever saw in my life, and it was actually disturbing seeing some people eating a bunch of eyeballs. So it was actually my first time watching it. Because I remember when I was a little kid, I didn't even like it because I don't get how people could watch that movie in theater. Like what the fuck is going on here? So yeah, and yeah, this Black Christmas. Well, I haven't seen the original yet, but I'll get to that later on. But for now, I want to talk about the remake that Mary Elizabeth and um forgot their other names. Yeah, she was the one that worked on Final Destination 3 and back in 2006. This is like right she done the movie. She after she done Final Destination 3. So the movie actually takes place in usually in a hospital in the intro. Well, in the intro, not the opening scene. Because all of a sudden they talk about the legendary serial killer Billy Lance, and somehow a bunch of college students move in there in his home, and suddenly someone is there before, like, it's like what? So I was confused in the entire film, like, because I knew the original. My friend was talking to me about that the original was actually some sort of copycat killer and stuff like that. That people wear masks and then they start killing people. Yeah, but that never happened. This is like a sister. That guy had a sister originally, and somehow she became a serial killer, which is I don't know how, but so yeah, the intro takes place in a sorority house and then in a mental hospital, and then Billy actually breaks out by stabbing the guard with a candy cane, which is somehow he was still alive, but I don't know because his neck was shaking when he got stabbed by it. And all of a sudden, like one of the girls start disappearing one by one. They check on every room they look for, and all of a sudden, there's like weird eyeball scenes in every scene in the film. Like the one in the backstory I didn't like. Like, why do we need an unpopular horror villain? Like a backstory of it. Like, why? And because usually this kid was actually, or this guy was actually just, he had like some sort of yellow skin cancer, and his mom didn't like him because she abused him. Somehow her husband or Billy's dad actually was killed. Um, so he takes revenge on those two couples that killed his dad, and then suddenly he makes Agnes into a serial killer by cutting her eyeball out. I mean, there is a true fact that whenever something happens to your brain, you suddenly forget that whatever happened in the past. So she might have went through like um a, whatever it is that loses your eyeball and you just don't remember anything. So yeah, in the movie she actually remembers Billy as her father instead of her brother. So that's weird. So yeah, Billy kills these two couples, and suddenly gets sent in the mental hospital, and Agnes suddenly disappeared. Like there was no story of that. I mean, come on. Black Christmas should have done better than that. And the only thing I didn't get was the phone calls. Like the phone calls were like it wasn't that weird and creepy, but it was like a threat and all that stuff. It was like people crying for help, and then all of a sudden they die. So the only scene I didn't get was actually the girl that comes down the stairs and finds, gives a present to Mary Elizabeth, and she gives her like a glass unicorn that Agnes used for a weapon. So she goes downstairs, and then she almost heads out the door, and then she disappears. And how the fuck do you let somebody disappear off screen? So that was a confusing scene where how did she disappear that quick without making any noise? Like, I don't know. Black Christmas is complicated. So they start um they start looking for one of the girls, and one girl, actually the sister, comes in and starts seeing wants to see her sister Claire, which is her sister Claire actually dies in the beginning of the movie. So and then suddenly all hell breaks loose. They cut the power, and somehow they kill the girls one by one. So and the sad part is that Mary Elizabeth Winstead didn't get to live that long because she dies in the car, and the house mother or sorority, whatever the fuck she was a teacher. So she actually dies from an icicle death, an accidental death. So it's like these horror films don't get better than the original because the original is always the best in the remakes, because usually you get a remake that wants to be better than the original. Like the It actually was actually a well, it wasn't actually that good. It's just that the story was good. Usually the original didn't had any story in it. It was just some evil clown just killing each kids one by one with different hallucinations and stuff. Like it wasn't talking about Georgie and stuff. It was talking about Pennywise and the rest of the loser kids. So yeah, remakes takes a whole lot level. So I'm gonna go back to Black Christmas and the It one, because I was gonna review an It one soon. So this movie actually, so Billy comes home, and then he watches a girl puking, which is she drank like 20 glass of vodka one night, and then all of a sudden she goes to sleep. Like, what the hell? Like, what is she gonna do? Like, sit there and die? So, and they all of a sudden found the girl with the glasses body, which is her head was decapitated in the car, so her head was cut off. And they tried to call the police, but the police wouldn't get there because the storm was actually having its worst thing. So yeah, they had to wait all night until they get there. And then finally we get the girl in the bed. Like, we get her dying from Agnes. Like, you shouldn't go to sleep when somebody is around your house and trying to kill each other. So It's actually not a good idea to sleep because sleep can kill you when somebody's in your house. So, so they found uh, the girl. Well, they found her dead body. So they go up in the attic, and there's one guy that gets killed, and it was the boyfriend. The boyfriend gets grabbed up in the attic and gets killed because the girls try- failed to save him. So their plan was to like whack the fucking guy and save the guy, but they didn't. So they failed on it. So and then they see a bunch of dead bodies on the Christmas tree and then on Christmas chairs. And they suddenly find Claire's body being in the attic with bag over her head, just like the original. So so they fight Agnes and Billy in the attic, leaving the house on fire. Well, usually it was a smart decision on in horror film. Like if you're in a battle with a serial killer, if it was an encounter, best chance to get a weapon and use it for good because you don't know how long you're gonna survive. So she actually did a good thing. She drags Agnes on the floor, and then she knocks down a candle, and then somehow it makes the wrapping papers light up. And then makes it makes everything all light up, like all the Christmas trees and all the Christmas shit. So I was fine. Like I liked how she acted in the movie. Like she was all scared and shit, and then finally you get her fighting because they just killed like 7 people already. So the girl actually comes into the laundry room and saves that girl that is behind the wall, and then they and then the Christmas tree starts falling down, and then it suddenly lands in the same area where Agnes and Billy are. So they both get fried, but usually there was usually 3 alternate endings for the film. One, we had the hospital scene where they both live, and the second ending where we have Agnes returning from the dead and killing the sister there, and then the blondie hair girl actually survives by frying Agnes's brain, and then the end. And then we got a third one where a shitty ending, but it does not make a lot of sense, and I thank God it was not put in the film. So in the movie, in the last ending of that alternate ending, so Billy actually lives because he was burnt alive, and Agnes didn't get to live. So she died, and then Billy lives. I was like, what the hell? Like, what kind of ending was this? Like, Billy lives. I'm like, what? Yeah, it would totally fuck up every horror film. And thank God it wasn't put to that. So we get the blondie hair girl at the end of the movie. This wasn't an alternate ending. This is actually the original ending. So we get both of them at the hospital, and Billy and Agnes somehow are still alive, and they kill one morgue, um, one morgue employee, and then they suddenly try to go after the survivors. They kill one survivor, which is it's that girl, that sister there, and usually she finds out that the body was hidden in the ceiling where where it was bleeding on a light. So it was a good that was a good ending though. Like they should have done a sequel in a hospital back in the old days where they had the original, like the first one. Then they should have had the second one in the hospital. Like really, they need a sequel. Well, usually not a sequel, but they should have put out a sequel. But a sequel was made back in 19 right after the first movie came out, right after it was premiered because it was the biggest it was the least biggest movie of the 70s. The script was going to be at a hospital, and Agnes and Billy would have to kill one of the patients and one of the nurse night nurse, and then somehow the girl would survive and kill them both again. It'd be like uh John Carpenter's Halloween too, which usually wasn't actually directed by John Carpenter. It was directed by somebody else, but John Carpenter did the second one, and that was my favorite one. But I'm not talking about John Carpenter because usually this is Christmas and it's black. Usually it's time to talk about Christmas horror films. So so they get in the hospital and the girl kills Agnes with the chest electric that they use on to revive you. So she uses it on Agnes's brain, and then Billy actually climbs down and tries to get the blonde hair girl, but she breaks the window, gets out of the door, gets out of that room, and starts beating the shit out of Billy. And then all of a sudden, she tips over Billy, and then at the end, like, he dies. So don't forget to hit subscribe, and don't forget to comment. And it's time for me to go to bed now.